the most common hurdles with using video and how can sellers get over them? Let's talk through it on this episode of Closing Time. Welcome to Closing Time, the show for go-to-market leaders. I'm Val Riley, Head of Content Marketing at Insightly. Today I'm joined by Tyler Lessard. He is VP of Marketing at Vidyard. He is the host of the Sales Feed podcast and also the author of the book, The Visual Sale. Welcome to the show, Tyler.
Thank you so much. It is such a pleasure to be here, Val.
Great. Well, let's start with some numbers because if we're going to get salespeople to pay attention, we probably need to give them some data. So I hear Vidyard is quoting a figure that is saying 3x growth with response rates when they incorporate video.
Now, some may feel like that's a staggering number. Like, really, can we triple our response rates? And like any good marketers, that tends to be what our best-in-class users report. And we've heard that consistently from those who are using really personalized video messages as part of their prospecting to reach out to their key accounts. Many of them have, lifted from a 3 to 5% response rate to a 10 to 15% response rate when really leaning into it. On average, statistically, we've seen data that suggests that using video messages in outbound emails increases response rates by roughly 25 to 30% on average. So, even the baseline is quite a boost for most salespeople. And at the end of the day, if you can get a few more folks to pay attention, to hear your message and to ultimately respond, well, that's really what we're here for.
Yeah, so from my marketing chair, I'm hearing your numbers and I'm thinking, well, this sounds pretty easy to ask the salespeople to start using more video. But we get pushback on it, and frankly, it's understandable. So what are some best practices for getting over that initial hurdle?
Yeah, so what we're talking about here is still relatively new for a lot of us, and particularly in the business world, is this idea of using a tool like a Vidyard to record custom video messages or screen recordings and send them over to our prospects as part of an email. Typically, it can also be sent through InMail or a direct message or even a text. But that idea of hitting the record button, recording a short video and sending it over is, again, new for many of us. And it's not always the most comfortable or natural thing. It's a little bit different from hopping on a live video call where we're used to having conversations, but it feels almost a bit more like you're presenting, which might be a little bit odd. And so what we find is a lot of sales reps, start off feeling like, ugh, I'm not sure about this. I understand them being able to see and hear me is really valuable, but I struggle with it a little bit, and often they find it's inefficient, right? They say, oh, I had to record this video 10 times to get it just right. And those are very common things when you get started with this. But we're going to talk through a number of tips to help with that. And I'll maybe kick that off by saying the most important thing when you're thinking about recording and sending video messages is to remember that it's about connection, not perfection. If you strive for perfection with something like video messages, it is not going to work for you. I really encourage you to think about it as a more natural, authentic way to say what I might have said in an email, but to do it with more humanity and more personality and to just be myself.
It sounds like any habit, there's a repeatability factor in there, right? The more
Absolutely.
you do it, the more comfortable you get. So is there this magic threshold where a certain number of videos per week or a certain number of videos under their belt and you're noticing, oh gosh, all of a sudden it's a little bit more comfortable for people?
Yeah, I mean, that's such a huge part of it. The more you do it, build the muscle, you build the confidence, and it just becomes much more natural. I have heard from a few different customers that I work with a fairly consistent number where they say, when my reps get to 50 to 100 videos that they've sent, they start to feel confident, efficient, and really into a rhythm with it. And so what they'll often do is they'll intentionally structure a 30 to 60 day kind of plan to integrate video into their outreach and say, every day we want to make sure you send 2 or 3 videos for these first couple of months. And in some cases, those might actually even be internal videos. They don't always have to be external to customers. So it might be you're answering an internal message. It might be you're updating your team on something. It might be you wanted to share some feedback you heard. Instead of typing it out, hit the record button, record a quick video and send it over, and use that as just a means to practice how you speak on camera, how you use a tool like this. And that can really go a long way.
All right. So is it like a top-down approach or is it a bottom up approach? Is there one way that works? Like, would you have a pilot with a certain number of reps trying it? Would you ask your sales leaders to start first and kind of put themselves on the spot?
Yeah, there's opportunities for all of that. The one nice thing is, tools like a Vidyard, and there are others, of course, that are almost as good, are free to use. And so a lot of sales reps just get started and they, again, try it out for certain things and start to develop some level of comfort. Sales leaders will do the same things. But we found that for most sales teams, if you think about how do I want to equip my team, like many sales tools, the most successful deployments are where they find a small group of individuals who want to really experiment with this and who aren't going to how might I say, push back a lot. Sort of those individuals who are going to be hand raisers and say, yeah, this sounds super interesting. I'm comfortable on camera. Let me try this out. Once you identify a few of those folks, the benefit is now they can get past the on-camera hurdles first, but they can now start to develop, okay, what works, right? Like what kind of message do I want to send? When do I want to use video in the sales process and so on? And so you can start to learn best practices from those initial hand raisers and then use that to start to think about rolling it more broadly to the team so that you've got a bit of a framework and you're not just sending it out to all your sales reps saying, hey, here's a new video tool, try it and see what happens. We can say, hey, here's a new video tool. These 4 people in the team have already tried it out and have learned some best practices. And here's some reference examples of some of the videos that they've made to inspire you or to help you as well.
I like that approach a lot. So it sounds like you're talking about getting people on board with this within your organization. But at some point, we're going to start hiring sales reps who maybe have had this experience already. So have you seen or heard of like a video sales skill test or as being part of a sales interviewing process? Because I feel like
Right.
that's either on the horizon or it's already here.
Yeah, I think if it's not already here, it's definitely on the horizon. One thing that's been really interesting on that note that we found is that a lot of sales reps who are looking for a new opportunity are starting to use video messages as part of the recruitment process. And so they're often sending a video message to the hiring manager, to the recruiter. After an interview, they'll send a video to the interviewer afterwards, thanking them for the interview, recapping some of the high points, maybe sharing a bit more information. And what's really interesting is that I often hear from, again, hiring managers saying a big part of our decision to go with this candidate was the way that they used video. It was innovative. And it showed me that they understand sort of modern selling, even in just selling themselves. And so I think we're at the point where hiring managers are recognizing it and saying, wow, I want to hire people with that skill. And so I think that next tipping point is they are going to start asking for it and saying, hey, video is a part of how we do things. And we want to make sure the people we hire understand a variety of different sales tech because that's important more now than ever. They need to understand how to use sales cadencing tools, data research tools, and video tools. So I think it is more and more becoming the norm. And again, if you're not seeing it yet, I have no doubt it's coming very soon.
Right. I can see that as like, hey, here's our tech stack. Here's a writing test, here's a video test, like
Yeah.
incorporating all that into the hiring process so that, it gives your reps an opportunity to hit the ground running a little bit faster within your organization.
Yeah, absolutely. And one of the interesting things we've seen with video as well is it may not surprise anyone to hear that the younger generation tends to be very adept at video. And it's not to say that, others are excluded from that. And some of our best users are in a higher age bracket, I will say, who have, really embraced video as a way to build relationships, which is often when you think about the history of sales, so much went into relationship building. And so a lot of, existing sellers find that it's great for relationship building and saying, hey, I can put my face back on with these people. I can use my personality. That's always been my secret weapon. But for younger sellers, they're coming into this going, email, like, the only thing I use email for is for like signing up for services. Like it's right. Like they're not growing up on using email as a communication tool in their personal lives. Everything for them is social and instant messaging. And so when you think about things like when you bring somebody on board and you're like, we want you to be really good in Slack and we want you to be really good with video and we want you to be really good with social selling. They're like, hallelujah, like this is how I operate and how I've grown up. And so it's great to see this company embracing these technologies. And so I actually think that we'll start to see an expectation of it, where as we bring more and more of the, Gen Z and certainly, parts of the millennial community into sales teams, that there'll be almost an expectation that, hey, I'm hopeful and would expect that we're using modern tools like social selling, like video and others. And I think it will actually be a benefit for a lot of sales teams.
Absolutely. I think a purely marketable skill at this point.
Yeah.
Do you have any tips for sales leaders that are looking at a video platform? I mean, I'm sure Vidyard would be high on your list, but are there certain features that they should look for if maybe you're a sales leader
Yeah.
and you want to add video to your mix?
Yeah, there's a couple of really important things to be mindful of and to think about as you roll out video solutions. First, and you'll find this to some degree with pretty much any mature video solution, is the ability to roll it out and manage it as an organization. And the ability for, again, you as a sales leader or as an executive team to be able to manage those different users, be able to customize the branding of how the videos or the playback pages look, be able to track performance, right? Like who's sending how many videos, what kind of engagement are they seeing? So those are things that will help you in terms of like coaching and understanding the ROI. The second piece, which is a bit of an extension to that, is thinking about how is this going to fit in with how our team works today? Because the real challenge can be when you throw yet another tool and you're like, okay, you're sending emails over here and you're doing this over here, and now you're going to send videos over here. It adds another barrier, both to adoption and also to just them being efficient. And so think about where and how are they going to use video in their outreach? And can we ensure we have a tool that works well with those? Like, for example, if you use SalesLoft as a sales sequencing tool, your reps are going to be sending videos right from inside of SalesLoft emails. So is it possible for my reps to just do that right inside SalesLoft? Whereas they compose an email, they can click a button, record a video, and send. Or if you use Gmail or Outlook, same thing. Is it easy from those tools to record and send a video? Or if you're using a backend CRM like a Salesforce, HubSpot, or Insightly, the opportunity to ensure you can track that data and use it as part of your ongoing sales process. This stuff is so important today, and it helps ensure that, again, we're developing really an integrated stack, but most importantly, that we're getting the value that we're looking for.
It sounds like in that purchase, as I was hearing you talk about the implementation, you're really going to need sales operations, IT on board, maybe a little bit of marketing for the branding. So there's really a lot of folks involved in the purchase decision.
I think there certainly can be. What we found is that most teams will start simple and small, right? They'll start testing out and using the free tools, and they won't yet worry necessarily about a lot of the back-end integration and reporting, because first they want to see value. And is this going to be worthwhile putting in this effort? So what I would encourage most folks to think about is, can you try some of these tools for free? See if it's going to work for your reps and for your business. And then from there, you can take those incremental steps to say, yep, it makes sense to deploy this or to integrate over here. And again, the best solutions out there will allow you to do that incrementally and will make it sort of a nice, easy and ongoing process where you can move at your own pace rather than having to bring all these different teams on board, because today it's so tough to do that when rolling out new sales tech.
All right. Well, I love the connection, not perfection mantra. Any other takeaways for us, Tyler, before we close?
I mean, I just get really excited about this because I have no doubt that video is a key part of how the sales community is going to evolve, and frankly, how buyers will want to interact more and more with sellers. And so today, a lot of us are doing great with video calls, things like Zoom and Teams and others. But this opportunity for us to use video as a way to record and send asynchronous or on-demand messages, I think is just a really big opportunity that I hope more and more people can tap into. So really excited about it, and hopefully folks listening can go try it out for themselves and see if it works.
Well, as a SaaS buyer, I'm going to keep my eye on my inbox to see how many video messages I'm getting now that I have an awareness. So thank you for that. All right, that's all we have for this episode of Closing Time. Thank you for joining us, Tyler.
Thank you so much. Absolutely my pleasure.
And thanks to you all for tuning in. Remember to subscribe to this channel, like the video, and hit the bell for notifications so you don't miss an episode. We'll see you next time.